those who perpetrated these acts against the civilian institutions such as the Iraqi News Agency and the Ministry of Information. And those who perpetrated these acts, they openly claimed responsibility for them. And now they are in power. They are in government. If you try Sheikh Abdullah right here, who is a farmer, why don't you bring these people to trial? And they are very well known, and now they are members of parliament and ministers. Please don't go outside the scope of your testimony. We are here, we brought you here so that you give us your testimony in the jail affair. Your Honor, I said that the jail events, I have nothing to do with them, but I was an Iraqi, an official of the government and of the party. I was the target of an assassination attempt that was perpetrated by a political party that said plainly that it was targeting Tariq Aziz. Now, this party is calling for the trial of Iraqi officials who acted within the law. So, as a judge and as a prosecutor, you could file a suit against them. Please, we're not here to draw parallels. This is not the purpose of your presence here today. Please, you started with the Mustansiriya events. Would you please tie those events to the jail affair? So how would you tie that? Well, Your Honor, this is a political issue. This is not a technical issue. The jail events, the assassination attempts that took place against the president in Dujil is one episode and a number of others that targeted all the officials of the government and the party, and I am one of the victims of these events. No, what do you think about the arrests and the executions that followed the events of Dujil? Well, I think the legal procedures were followed. In any country, the head of the state, even in Switzerland, the head of the state, if he is openly subjected to an assassination attempt, he is obligated by law to take the necessary measures to apprehend all those responsible for that action, and even those who were responsible for inciting others to take actions, and those who participated, and those who helped, and those who abated. We saw that on TV, but those who were shot called for the arrest of those who did the shooting and those who provided the ammunition and those who helped them in every way. So, and Mr. Awad, who is the chief judge of the Revolutionary Court, he told me, as you know, he's in prison with me, and as you well know, people when they're in prison, their real personality is revealed, and I think he's a tremendous fellow, is very altruistic, very kind, and very nice, and I doubt that he would try people with any vindictiveness. Something else regarding Mr. Barzan and Tahir. Now, we ask you to come here as a witness for Saddam Hussein. When the time comes to speak for those two others, we'll let you know. Well, Mr. Barzan Ibrahim is my personal friend. I am Vice Prime Minister, and he wasn't responsible for the intelligence. And he's my good friend. and we would meet occasionally for dinner, and he would tell me about what's happening in his job. And as Deputy Prime Minister, I would talk to him about things having to do with my job and responsibilities, but I never heard him anytime we met that he was arresting and detaining people and he was torturing them. He would have told me that, but he could have told me, listen, for last week, the whole week last week, I was not able to get in touch with you and have lunch with you or meet with you because I was busy. And this confirms the notion that Mr. Barzani had nothing to do with it. But me, as an official, I've been a minister since 1974. I was Deputy Prime Minister, then I was Foreign Affairs Minister, and then again Deputy Prime Minister. I know that intelligence services have nothing to do with domestic affairs. Anything that happens, if this has to do with domestic affairs, even if the intelligence services are aware of it, they would give the file to the law enforcement. So, with regard to Dajil, no Barzani and no one else in the intelligence services had to do with it. Well, however, as someone in charge of intelligence and the person responsible for the protection of the president, who happens to be his brother, he was concerned. So Mr. Barzani never really was in charge of the Dajil file. So, and then Mr. Ramadan, as for Mr. Ramadan, he was a senior Deputy Prime Minister, and I was Deputy Prime Minister. He was a little higher than me, of course, but we would meet all the time, 3-4 times a week. We would talk, and we would have dinner together sometimes, but he never ever told me anything about Dajil. He never told me, I'm sorry, I haven't seen you for a week because I'm very busy dealing with the Dajil file or the Dajil situation. I never heard anything from him. Neither after a week after the events, nor a month after the events, nor a year after the events. Okay, what about the raising of the orchards? The raising or the orchards. What we heard is that those whose fields were raised, they were generously compensated, and they were given other lands, replacement lands, to farm and to live in. The president never mentioned that because he considered that to be his duty towards fellow Iraqis. And you can ask here people from Dajil, they are right here present, and some of the witnesses who appeared before your court, Your Honor, you can ask them how much compensation they got from the government, how much land did the government give you. So when the government is obligated to raise orchards, and according to the Iraqi law, the land can expropriate land for the common good, what you call eminent domain, provided it gives a fair compensation. And if they got fair compensation, they don't have a case any longer. However, those who try to kill the president commit a crime, and they need to be punished for that. And his government actually tried to punish those who committed these acts, and this is absolutely normal, and there is nothing wrong with it. Everywhere in the world, such thing would be normal. And it's not because I like Saddam Hussein and he's a friend of mine, but I don't think he is responsible. I don't think actually he bears an iota of responsibility for what happened, neither him nor the rest of his colleagues. Well, I've been in prison for 3 years. I don't go out. I don't see Baghdad. But we hear that the road leading to the airport has also been raised, and the orchards surrounding it have been raised. Did they get compensation? Well, the reason they say they raised these orchards because they don't want the terrorists to use them. Well, it's the same thing that happened in the jail. They raised these orchards in order to preclude terrorists from using those lands and hiding behind those trees. However, the state compensated those owners of those farms and orchards. So he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't commit a mistake, either legal mistake or humanitarian mistake. Now, in Fallujah, in Ramadi, everywhere in Iraq, there are orchards being raised, and nobody compensated them, compensated the owners.